Hi, we're the Three Gigs, Paul, Jim, and Craig. And today we're going to talk about stuff. No, liquidated damages.
Ew.
That's right.
To remind everybody, you're talking from the owner's perspective.
I'm talking from the owner's perspective, the dark side.
And I'm talking from the general contractor's perspective.
And I'm the one that gets hit with all of this in the long run. I'm the subcontractor.
Just your fair share.
Exactly. Just my fair share.
Just your fair share.
That's what they always say.
So, liquidated damages, I always love that name because they don't seem liquid to me.
They're not like drippy.
Well, it's to liquidate. It's kind of like I always like to think about this when you go by the carpet store, right? Liquidated, or the liquidation sale.
Liquidation,
right? In other words, they're getting rid of everything, except for they never do, right?
Right.
But if you look at a store that's going out of business, they want to liquidate everything, right? And that's kind of what the liquidated damage clause in the contract does.
Sure, the legal world has a much more weird definition of liquidated versus unliquidated damages.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't come down to whether we've stipulated what those damages are going to be,
Yeah.
right? So that we can actually liquidate them and get them out of the way, as
Right.
opposed to the unliquidated or unstipulated damage that would say we're not really sure what it's going to be. We're going to have to determine what it is through some legal method or negotiation.
Kind of the root is,
Right.
I'm the contractor and you want me to build your building. And
Right.
so I say, I've looked at everything and I think this project's going to take me 14 months to build.
Right.
And so we agree that 14 months is the time frame in our contract that's I'm going to start here and finish 14 months later and deliver you an occupiable building, right? So we agree that after the 14th month and 1 day, there's a penalty.
Right. For the most part, the liquidated damage is a damage for delay of delivering the project on time, and it will be a stipulated sum. What are those these days? I mean, for a lot of the things that I used to bid, it was relatively minimal, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. I've seen $10,000 a day, but I've also seen $1 million a day. So,
Wow, that'd be big.
So one of the questions, it's probably a flow down clause where if we agree that it's $5,000 a day, he's probably going to put it into your contract as $5,000 a day, but not necessarily. I've heard of cases where the general contractor,
they're gonna.
you're doing underground work.
So they're going to say something like liquidated damages on this project are $5,000 a day, and they will be distributed proportionately to the guilty parties that caused the delay.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. So. Working with a contractor right now who's still not finished and starting to hand out notices to the subcontractor.
You're
we are going to be assessed liquidated damages, and you will be receiving your fair share of that.
Right.
Yeah. Going back to your question, the last couple of contracts I've signed here's the 14 months, and then we're going to establish a little grace period of 30 days after that. And at the 31st day, it went to $1,500.
Okay,
and
so
then
incremental.
On the 61st day, it went to $2,500, and on the 91st day, it was $5,000 a day.
So progressive liquidated damages.
Yeah.
I do those
As you can
too.
assume, because an owner has probably some income stream associated to that building, whatever it might be. And on the first day, if let's just say he might not have it fully occupied, but by the 30th day or the 60th day or the 90th day, he might.
Right.
He's also paying more interest.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what these liquidated damages.
So I always ask contractors. I'll always ask contractors whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to have it in their contract. And at first glance, many will say, well, no, we don't want a liquidated damage clause. What they mean by that is they don't want to have to pay liquidated damages. But the bigger question is it a good thing to have in a contract? And I'll always argue the fact that, yes, it is a good thing to have a liquidated damage clause as opposed to a real damage for delay clause.
Real damage.
Or the consequential damages for delay.
Right.
Which means, I give the example of, let's say that I'm contracted to go tear down the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas and rebuild it into something, grand and huge and everything. And the liquidated damages were $1 million a day. Would you actually rather have that $1 million a day liquidated stipulated damage, or the real damages of not having that operational 100% on day one?
Right.
And everybody would say, "Oh no,"
Yeah.
because now you have suitcases full of gold and venues, these entertainment venues and all these artists that are ready to show up, and then, oh no, sorry, the contractor's late. I don't want any part of that.
Cancel contracts, right? Yeah.
I would rather have the $1 million a day that I know for sure.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a negotiation over this part of the contract where anybody was particularly satisfied with whatever number was picked. As an owner or owner's rep, I can't help but think of a day as a bloodletting on my side. Every day, and to your point, it compounds. But if I've got a business and I've got leases signed and people are ready to come in, and I can't start marking that check coming in, it's so much money. I can do that math.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
And I could bring that to the negotiation, and there isn't a contractor in the world who would agree to my liquidated damage numbers.
You're consequential.
Yeah,
that's
I have to do the numbers to come to a number.
But by the same token, I'll even step into the shoes of the owner here and understand it, because if I'm a manufacturing firm, let's say for pharmaceuticals, if I don't have my plant up and running on day one, I might miss market opportunity that I can never regain.
Right.
And so I've actually seen projects where they realize they're going to be delayed midstream, and they shut it down and start something completely different because there's no use even finishing this facility anymore. We've missed the market. Somebody else is going to take it and run with it, and there's no use in us trying to even make up that lost ground.
Right.
So who's responsible for that?
Makes a good point where if you have liquidated damages in a contract, it certainly heightens the awareness of all parties at the table,
Sure.
owner, contractor, general contractor, of the importance of meeting dates from the very beginning.
Exactly.
And losing time and knowing what that means. If you can't make that up, could be $75,000 worth of time.
Exactly.
Right.
So a lot of contracts will even have interim, or what I like to call special damages, where, let's say Caltrans, for example, if you are on a lane of traffic and you have it down and you're supposed to have it up and running by 6 o'clock in the morning, for every minute after that, it could be a few $1,000s. Airports, I think over here at Lindbergh, on an airport project, it can be $10,000 a minute, perhaps, for not having the runways back open at a particular time in the morning. But then if you're the contractor and it's dark in the morning and you look out and you start seeing the lights of the airplanes line up out in East County, you can understand why the owner would put that in there, because what are you going to do? Would the contractor rather have that as a per minute liquidated damage for that day, or have those planes diverted to LA and all the costs, the consequential damages of not landing those planes?
Right.
So I fully understand the owner's complaints or the concerns on those, and I can get on board. But I would rather see them stipulated and thus liquidated, as opposed to you continually finding more and more.
It's predictable.
Right.
It's a solution that gives both sides predictability for what you're going to get and what you're going to pay.
And the closure, right? The liquidated part
And
of
closure.
that, right?
Yeah.
So I think contractors sometimes are a little concerned because of the language that might be associated with them that makes it seem like they're going after the stipulated damage, but then if they can also prove more damages, they'll also come after the consequential damages. So those clauses need to be pretty well written.
Right. Right. So again, as an owner, we talked about the stepped I think part of the step is been owners saying that that's too low.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but at the same time,
I actually like that. I like the step.
it works better, I think, for everybody because it is predictable, but it does give you a chance to go, oh, this is uncomfortable.
Right.
I'm in that first 30 days.
Yeah.
I sure don't want to get into the next 30
Right.
days.
And you also get the opportunity to see that the owner's serious about it because they, have a billing period in that as well.
Right.
So there it is. There's
Right.
It's already cutting into your billing.
No, but let's talk about that. What's the theory, do you think, for the stepping of it? So the first 30 days, it's $1,000 a day. The next 30 days, it's $5,000 a day. And then if it goes to a third month, it's $10,000 a day. Is there, as an owner, I'm thinking, well, if we do it that way, again, the predictable is the contractor's able to do the math. If they're smart, they're able to say,
I'll be 30 days late and you're paying for it anyway. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
But this month, I'm going to be out this much money.
Right.
Next month, I'm going to be out 5 times that amount of money. An owner, I think, believes that a smart contractor would do that math and say, is there money I can spend this month and get it done? If I'm going to pay $100,000 next month, I've got 30 days. Mm-hmm. Can I spend $50,000, $60,000 of my own money to overtime, to do whatever we got to do? That's how I think an owner would think a contractor
that's incentivizing. It really is incentivizing the contractor to bring every resource they can to the project to finish it, right?
Yeah,
you're saying?
Yes, and yet I'm amazed at how many times I get into that scenario, and it's like, well, I guess we'll try and get it done, but if not, I guess we'll pay more.
It seems
and I'm saying. Spend it now.
Well, you're going to be.
You understand that you could.
This is going to be your money anyway, so you might as well spend it.
Yeah, spend 25 to save 75.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Spend 50 to save 75.
Yeah. Good
But
return on your
at
money.
the end of 30 days, you're done. You can walk out.
Yeah.
We don't have to deal with this anymore. Don't spend that money, and we're beating each other up for another 60 to 90 days.
Right. And if that is the scenario, then they've really missed the opportunity to look at that and assess their risks, right? Because that's really what the whole point of liquidated damage clause in a contract is so that both parties can assess the risk of what a delay to the project would be to both sides.
And make a decision.
And mitigate that risk.
Right.
So absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So what happens if we've got the liquidated damages and obviously, if it's time, right? That's black and white, right? I know you're late, and you know you're late, and I know you're late because it's all your fault. So what's there to argue about?
Oh, there's always something to argue about.
Oh, yeah. The reason for those delays?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was your fault.
Weather?
No, it's your fault.
Weather?
Well, then it's his fault.
A
If you're
decision
saying it's mine,
made
it's
by
his.
the architect, an additional plan check that had to happen because the city decided, you changed that structural detail, and I need that detail to go back through plan check because it's different than what's on the permitted drawings.
Right, and that was at the very beginning of your project, and we didn't think it was a big deal then, but we went ahead and documented that, and now we're going to stick it to you
Right.
at the end because you're going to try to get liquidated damages. We're going to come back and say it was all because of what you did at the beginning of the project.
So
That was fast, wasn't it?
it was.
But that was
succinct.
It was true, though, wasn't it?
So the whole idea of liquidated damages is to make it easier for the people, the owner and the contractor and the contractor to agree right up front so that these damages are predictable. It makes everybody much more efficient in terms of being able to work things out. It allocates some risk to everybody, and at the end, nobody agrees, and we hire attorneys and go sue one another.
Yeah.
And
So
Instead-
we've done this thing, and we all have pat ourselves on the back with how we've made it convenient and easy and predictable, and yet there's only one thing to argue about at the end of a contract, and that's liquidated damages and timing. And my experience is those aren't particularly smooth discussions.
Right. Sure. Now, is there, in your experience, have you seen many contracts that will actually give that owner discretion as to how much of the liquidated damages to charge, and maybe even relieve of those liquidated damages under certain circumstances, or
On most of the contracts I've been involved with as a general contractor where there were liquidated damages and the owner had the right to assess them, I would say at least 50% of the time they assessed those in some negotiated amount. So
they did have.
they did have the
But
right
it
to
wasn't
do it.
necessarily it wasn't a statement in the contract. It was just the practice of the owner, or was it written in the contract that they had that discretion, or that there could be some negotiation?
Well, the liquidated damages were stipulated in the contract, amount and days and the whole thing.
Right.
But then, when you really get to the table and you start talking about, well, who caused that last delay, and that there's some room for negotiation, I think.
I think that's where the contracts are written. I will assess you.
Yeah.
Not it's up to me to decide if I'm going to assess you. But I think that language is there for that reason, because it's going to not be black and white. And
For example, I know that if you're just like reviewing some closeout procedures of maybe like a university, in their closeout flow chart, it'll say, at this point, the university can exercise their discretion in reducing liquidated damages, right? So I'm just wondering if that's something that's written in hard, or if it's just something that they do as a practice.
it's never been put in any of the private contracts that I've done. However, I do have clients who, they've got a good relationship with the contractor. They've done many projects together. This one,
So just
all
for
four
relational-
tires blew out.
Right.
And the contractor and the owner essentially said, okay, here's the deal. Hurry up. Don't send me a bill for general conditions and any of this cost that you're spending to make it work, and I won't assess LDs.
Got it.
As long as I know you are throwing every ounce of
Yeah.
water on the fire, I'm not going to add insult to injury and do LDs.
So we are always instructing contractors to, document the project well from the very beginning, from the outset. And one of the reasons that we do that is so that if these kinds of things come up at any point, and I believe that the owner, when it gets close to this, will notice, will provide a notice. I think that's what you were talking about. They'll provide a notice that liquidated damages are going to be invoked or charged, and then a general contractor gets on board and starts saying, hey, we're going to be levied these charges, so you're going to get your fair share, right? And I kind of was joking about that in a way. We expect that if you can show us that it was in fact our fault, we'll have to.
Well, that's
pay into
just
that,
it.
right?
My experience as a general contractor, we always, if we ran into that, it was always a fair share. I was surprised from my friends who were subs to find out that was not necessarily the case at all within my industry. That it was just a case of you're the underground guy.
Right.
You were on time.
Right.
The
So I
project didn't fall apart until framing and drywall started.
Right. So I shouldn't have any fair share.
And yet you get
Right.
you get a bill for it
Right.
because the contractor says, no, I'm just going to spread it across to everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's why then I would reject that, right? And I'm going to fight that. But then
Now you're in arbitration.
It's like an insurance claim.
right, exactly, right.
Everybody's in.
everybody out. They
Yeah,
look around
it's
and
gonna hit everybody's policy.
everybody that they can see from the project just became part of the claim or the lawsuit.
Right.
So the other side of this is that all along the way, and probably a topic for another discussion someday, but all along the way, the contractors have the obligation in their contracts to also provide notice to their client if there is any change going on.
Right.
So change in cost, change in time, if there is a delay that they have noticed that it is either their fault or somebody else's. If I'm the general or the sub, I notify you, and you by extension notify the owner when it's appropriate to do so, so that these are managed risks along the way.
Right.
As opposed to coming to the end of the project, oh, wait a minute, I'm delayed. So a lot of times the delay can be, the source might be your problem as the owner. It might be his problem, but see, I'm always going to be trying to protect myself against that liquidated damage rolling down to me at some point.
Right.
So I'll be documenting,
That's that heightened awareness.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Right.
Everybody's
So if we
hyper-aware.
can show that to you at the end, that no, we did all the things we were supposed to do and we finished on time, we would have if it hadn't been for the actions of your architect and engineer or your construction manager or your general contractor. you know. And then general contractor's kind of doing the same thing, So.
All right. Well, that was our thinking about liquidated damages, trying to illuminate some of the things going on in the background of liquidated damages. Liquidated damages are going to be found in almost all construction contracts. And if you're a subcontractor, you're somewhat at the threat of what the general contractor has negotiated with the owner. Mercy, that's right.
Mercy, not threat.
Mercy.
Which
It's not
is
a threat.
I'm merciful.
It's a little.
That's right.
To actually hear that word being used in the same sentence with general contractor might not exactly be correct.
May not be.
No.
It's the way it feels.
Yep.
Thanks for watching. We're the Three Gigs, and catch our next topic when it comes up.